because I had to go to the office quick, but we can get started because we're going to do something before we get into the book today. So is everything going to write good? Not just the marker I gave you. You better have something different.
Oh, so we need this marker?
You will need the marker. That's why I gave it to you. We're going to write something. We're going to write something. So you think I just leave the thing that you're never know. Alright, well, what we're going to start out with today is we're just going to do a little bit of quick free writing. But I'm going to give you something to write about. So the goal for right now is just to think about the picture that I'm going to show you. I have 2 copies, we'll pass them around. And you're just going to write about whatever this picture makes you think of. It doesn't mean that you have to write about the picture. You could write a story about the picture. But more or less just think about what it brings up for you. So,
On this or that?
doesn't matter. Whatever you want to write it on is fine. So take a look at the picture, then pass it to Cully, pass it to Laurel, and when the other folks come in, they will start doing this as well.
Asher, you're gonna hate me.
Why?
So, he's Asher. I don't know.
Is that what it's about?
Well, why don't you start writing a little bit, and then maybe you guys can go. Chrissy asked first, though. But go ahead and take a few minutes now.
Start.
So do we participate?
Like you said.
He's not here right now.
Whatever it makes you think of. Suds is here to evaluate our class, but more precisely just to evaluate me. But of course,
I just had deja
teachers are
vu.
always evaluating students.
I just had deja vu.
You ready?
You got 5.
Remind yourself of it.
Oh, don't keep the
Oh, now
picture.
you've got 2 of them.
Did you pass me this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, you.
It's okay. It's good. Just leave them because the other people only need to look at them.
They're the same thing.
They are. I need 2 copies.
How do you spell Ryan? Ryan only got right here.
How do you think? Start it out. You know how we do this. Give it a shot first and then we'll look it up. That's a good word. I'm not watching.
You gotta see what the picture is about. Is that it?
Or whatever you want. Whatever comes to mind. You have the picture. Do you need to see the picture again?
No.
Whatever the picture makes you think of.
There.
This is what it makes me think of.
Whatever makes you think of. If you want, you can go use the restroom. Make sure you take the pass and be quick.
3 minutes, Christy, huh?
3 minutes. Alright, how did you think you started spelling?
R-A-L. No, just for now. R-A-U. Rowley. R-A-W-L-Y. Rowley.
Replace the 1.
Seriously,
What are you doing with yours, Val? Keep writing. Even if you make a list. If you want, you could make a list of like
I
emotions
just spelled
that come to
Rottweiler.
mind. What?
I just spelled Rottweiler.
How do you think you started?
Rot.
Rot. Good.
Weiler. Wee Eiler.
What?
Is it Wee Eiler?
Yes.
A lot of spelling practice today.
Rottweiler.
Is that going to be your new name?
It's good Braves name. Just makes me forget.
Alright, we'll move on either when Christy gets back or when those other folks get back, whatever happens.
done.
Riled.
Someone about it.
Hi, Sam.
Not like it already happened, but it happened.
I think that you can do that. Yeah. Riling. You did.
Hey, is there a definition of God in dictionary?
I changed it.
Here. Look.
You
Alright,
want to read
Sam.
my reading?
What we're
My
doing, you're gonna share it with us in just a minute. What you do, just look at this picture, whatever it makes you think of, write about it on your paper. Anything. It can be related to the picture, or it can be emotions that have to do with the picture. Whatever comes to mind for you. Were Jakira and Rhiannon still at the office?
Jakira was.
Okay. You keep on losing that marker, huh?
I don't like this.
You can trade. We'll use it in a minute and I'll take it away from you.
I'm taking it.
I'll make it so it doesn't bother you anymore. Cully, what'd you find out? Is God in the dictionary?
It is.
And?
Any of various beings conceived of as supernatural and immortal.
Interesting. Is that
An
what
idol, a person, or being defied. In monotheistic religions, the creator and ruler of the universe, supreme being.
Is that what you expected to find?
I didn't know what to expect.
What prompted the question?
I don't know, it just kind of popped up.
Just kind of came into mind? Alright. So we'll let Sam finish up her thoughts. When Christy returns, we will discuss. So we're having a pretty good day today, alright? Are you feeling better? Good.
I flipped it in.
You put your How does that feel?
Great.
So now you have more time to read?
Sure.
Did you read any more in Gathering Blue?
Yeah.
Do you want to tell everybody a little bit about? No? Why not?
They'll find out themselves.
Well, can you at least tell them about The Giver? Why you were interested in reading The Giver again?
It's a book.
What propelled
The Giver?
this series of events?
Is it a good book?
Of me wanting to find the book? I don't know, I just thought of it. Just like, I really like that book. I'll read it again. So, I told you,
Mm-hmm.
you ordered it. You waited a certain amount of time. You got the book. Opened up the box. Hey, the books came in. I came in.
You
The
got
books came in. Really, I want to read it. Here, The Giver. Went home, started reading it.
You could write a play.
I could.
Has it been what you've expected to, or? Because you looked up, we initially had both read this book, The Giver, before. And then we found out that it was actually a series, and there was more books afterward. So now he's reading the first one that comes after The Giver. But he read a review of it first that said that it was subpar or something like that.
Yeah, it's not like.
It's not The Giver.
The Giver, it's the old man on the cover.
Yes, have you read it?
No.
You should read it.
First time I read
Seen it around?
It was like.
My grandma's reading it.
Like with gray hands and they had a red apple.
Huh. That reminds me of Twilight cover. Isn't that hands with an
True.
apple?
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, in fifth grade when we read The Giver, it was like that. We had an apple.
Isn't it interesting how book covers change over time? Like, we have 3 different versions of Pride and Prejudice. And they all, well, I mean, I guess these 2 are the same. But that's very different.
Isn't it weird how we all have different faces?
This is Jane.
It is. I don't know. Who do you think this
Easy.
is, Laurel?
It is, I don't know.
Elizabeth.
You think so?
Yeah.
Man,
Hello,
watch the
Christy.
Kira's gonna steal my share.
Hopefully not. But she probably will try. Alright, so we can't wait any longer for other folks, so. No, that marker's causing problems. Macaulay can share his now. No, she always ran into it. So, this picture of the dog and the teeth.
You almost ran into it?
No, she just made sure that it didn't fall over.
Oh, I was picturing.
So why don't we just go around and everybody can share something about what came to mind for them?
Yeah.
Do you want to start?
A ferocious dog.
Ferocious dog.
Teeth are really white, so they stand up.
That was the thing that popped out to you first.
Yep.
So you like evaluated like just the art? It's a question.
How did you evaluate it?
It makes me think of someone riling up a dog and getting it mad right before a fight with another dog. Because you need to get the dog really mad before they fight the opposing dog. It's like a dog fight.
Cool.
You just said that.
No, but you gave us another image, more details. Now we're imagining another dog, imagining the person with the dogs, who's watching the fight, all kinds of things. Christy's got me wondering if the dog does bleach treatments on his teeth and make them so white.
What is the thing?
Do they help dogs?
I don't know.
Stay white?
It's on commercial.
Possible. Laurel, what came to mind for you?
The dog at the vet getting its wisdom tooth pulled. So it won't be
Oh.
wise anymore.
So you're assuming that the dog is wise to begin with,
Yeah.
and you're assuming that dogs have wisdom teeth.
Yes. That's what I was thinking.
So do you think the dog is happy about this or not happy about it?
Not happy.
Not happy. Sam, what was your interpretation of the dog?
It reminds me of a dog who can't decide which hand to bite, so he widens his eyes to focus on both hands at the same time. And he keeps his jaws open, teeth ready to bite, basically on high alert to quickly snap in the other hand.
Nice. So you guys all came up with really strong, like, not, I don't want to say negative, but
We should just ignore it.
Imagination.
kind of violent, but like really, like I can picture what you all are saying. But did anybody think of a dog that was just playing?
No, I look pretty angry. Usually when dogs are mean, show like all their teeth. Just like
Ashton's
that.
always shaking us with his pictures.
Oh, it's actually getting petted and smiling.
Well, it could be. That's part of the reason. Okay, now you're like, now I've got to see it again. That's part of the reason why I chose this dog is because I felt like I couldn't decide.
No, that looks way too angry.
You think so?
Yeah.
See, the other class, there was a bunch of people who thought that the dog was like playful and fun and
Look at his eyes.
That's
It
what I
just
was
goes crazy and look in its eye.
it does. But my friend's dog gets that kind of look when it's playing. But I think it's true.
Don't do it. Just don't come at me.
It's like you're flipping it. Like how does
Yeah,
it
that's
change?
not just seeing if there's a back.
No, there isn't.
Like it's
Well, my point in not only just providing us a topic to write about, you think it's a very ferocious dog?
I don't know.
It's hard to tell. My point in offering this dog, oh, Cully, okay, so share yours. What did you think about this dog?
You didn't read it?
No, it's yours.
maybe expected it.
I thought about it, but, because you had already offered it up to me, but I wanted you to share with us what you were thinking.
Reminded me of a young boy that got attacked by a dog at Sharps. That I heard about from my mom. It was a while back though.
Okay, so it made you think of a dog that was violent. That's pretty much what everybody else in the circle had come up with.
I didn't
The
say it was
exception of
violent.
me. What?
So I didn't say nothing about it being violent.
You didn't. That's true. You talked about the dog's wisdom, but I did ask you if the dog was happy or not about getting its teeth out, and you said no.
Yeah.
So I guess
Wasn't
not
happy,
violent,
but
more
I
than
thought
the
it was
negative.
fair. If I wasn't mad before. But
There you go.
crying or something. Just wasn't too
I like
good.
in bleach teeth.
Well, no, she talked about the teeth though. About how didn't you talk about it? I don't know.
What reminds me of those dogs on Half Baked.
Circular-
Did you watch Half Baked?
Did you ever play with it? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah,
Why? What do you mean?
like you play with them and then like you try to and then like nab at your hand, you know.
Yeah,
It's playfully.
yeah. That's what I'm
It's
saying.
not native.
Did you say that?
You said it was native.
Wait, I thought your response over here was about. Say it again.
Well, basically, his is the only one that's negative.
It is.
It has. And you said his class is negative.
No, I meant like,
We're not negative.
we were thinking about the dog itself was not in a good place. The dog wasn't really happy.
I think everything was based on something we might have seen in our past life.
I think you're right.
Probably.
We all connected something that we already knew to the image, right? Well, that was the point, really. This is good. This is explaining my idea of the fact that when we have communication, it often is interpreted in different ways. Like, just because you say something and you have an intention behind what you mean to say, doesn't mean that that's how everybody else perceives it, right? Yes.
Hey, how's this going when you got paper over it?
It is. Don't touch it. It's okay. It's just filming for my grad school
Oh, I
class.
thought that
Where's the
It's only filming.
Where's the camera at though?
It's on the side of it.
Oh, okay.
was.
It's okay.
So what's that?
Oh, there it is.
That's also. That's for filming that. We're going to use that side in a minute.
Don't realize.
Anyway, back to the communication idea. We've talked about 3 different kinds of communication, of interpersonal communication. Recall for me what they are?
Also, this one filming too?
It is.
Why is it on two sides?
Because I'm going
Submissive.
to do something over here.
The submissive one.
Submissive. What else?
Direct. Indirect.
Okay, direct and indirect were 2 other things that we were talking about.
Yeah.
Assertive and aggressive. So,
Wow.
we
Man.
can all, we've all seen examples so far of, and Jakir, before you ask, yes, Suds is here to observe me, and I'm videotaping this lesson for my grad school portfolio.
And there are 2 video cameras in the.
No,
You
they're
better
over
smile.
here. It's
So
okay.
you better smile.
Oh,
Hands on me.
I got
Just
from the
like-
office.
No, it's fine. Your binder's right there for you. So, we have all these different we have these different types of communication, and there are different times when we respond with them, that different people respond in different ways, and you can't always tell how someone's going to respond to what you say. Because if I say something like, I don't know, get out your homework, people could be submissive. You could respond aggressively. You could be assertive if you're trying to tell me that you don't have it. And those are all ways to show what we showed here with this little discussion, that we're all going to interpret a situation differently. And we've seen that happen very recently here in Pride and Prejudice. And so that's what I want to transition to, is to talk about the chapter that we've most recently read, and how our 2 main characters here, Elizabeth and her sister Jane, have sort of interpreted some events differently. So let's go ahead and open up to the reading strategy 8. Isn't that what we were at? Chapter 6 is what we read yesterday.
Oh, you got it right. She needs the picture.
Well,
Right
Just
above the
have
picture.
You
it.
can-
What do
you
you
can
What do you think of when you see that?
you don't necessarily have to write about it. You could just tell us what you think.
You don't write it. in
Anger.
marker.
Anger.
Okay.
That's it.
Negative.
It's 3 on 3.
It's not. We're not judging
You
anger.
need a tiebreaker.
Yeah, we need
But well, Rhiannon will
Well, she
hopefully
skipped
come.
Suds, so
Can I use a marker?
Says he's not here.
still on that.
Suds can put in his opinion.
Yeah.
What did you think of the dog when you
Actually,
looked at it?
it reminded me of a time that I was playing wiffle ball, and there was a foul ball, and Kevin O'Brien went to go get it, and then a humongous dog came out of nowhere, like barking, and jumped at Kevin, or like looked like he was gonna like maul Kevin, and then Matt Campbell, like immediately quick thinking, ran over and started yelling at the dog, protecting Kevin.
Is that big white one?
No.
Yes.
It was a German Shepherd.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Because the funniest part is the fact that the dog belonged to my graduate school advisor.
Oh, really? We were wondering who's that dog was.
Yeah, yeah.
I think there's a big old white dog outside. And
There was one out there today when we went outside. Had something in his
that was
mouth.
Oh.
the one.
Tiebreaker.
No.
Seems like it.
So,
What do I think?
so interpret as if you will. So if you seem so into the interpreting.
Cricket.
Positive or negative.
Cricket.
Cricket. Oh.
Little negative. But still, we have this idea.
Cricket.
We have different viewpoints on how things come across.
Well, Ashley, what do you think about it?
Yeah.
I told you,
Yeah.
I thought of
Oh,
a
yeah,
playful
but-
dog.
Kinda looks like he's in
Go
pain.
for it.
That could be too. Well, in pain is kind of what Laurel was coming up with, since he thought the dog was getting its wisdom teeth taken out. It was no longer going to be wise.
Or it kinda looks like he's, what's that called? Being tortured. Or like he's laughing.
So that's what I thought.
No,
The
she
dog
can't
might be
change.
having fun.
I'm just writing all this down.
That's okay. That's fine.
Kinda looks like Kelly.
Okay. So now let's focus back on the book here.
What about
This one right here. Let's open up to the beginning of chapter 6.
Okay, so
And in the first paragraph here, who has gone where? What
I got
has happened?
confused when I read this first paragraph.
Okay.
it's a long one?
It is a long paragraph. She has a tendency to do that sometimes. Mike, did you have a copy to
Sure.
book to look at? Okay, so the beginning of chapter 6 here. The ladies of Longbourn soon waited on those of Netherfield.
The people from Netherfield went over to Longbourns.
The Bingley
the
sisters.
sisters.
Yeah, the sisters went over to visit the other sisters. So we have Bennet sisters visiting Mr. Bingley's sisters, right? Okay, now in the rest of this paragraph here, it's talking about what the sisters thought of, what Mr. Bingley's sisters thought of the Bennet ladies, and then later on it talks about what the Bennet girls thought of Mr. Bingley's sisters. We have sort of a difference of opinion here between Elizabeth and Jane. Knowing what we know about Jane and what you've read here, how does Jane feel about Mr. Bingley's sisters?
Likes it.
She likes them. Yeah.
Just
She thinks they're pretty okay people.
try to guess them at
Well, I mean, you're making an educated
least.
guess.
Because
You
she
know
likes
them.
everybody, so.
She does. At first. It's true. And what does Elizabeth think
So
of Mr.
what do you
Bingley's
mean at
sisters?
first?
Yeah.
So
At
toward the
first-
end, she starts hating everyone toward the end.
Well, no, she says hating everyone.
Or she kind of
Maybe I'm foreshadowing a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I was
maybe he killed the book.
thinking.
Oh, I don't think I killed
No.
the book.
She didn't.
Read
Why did
some
you
of
read
it.
it?
What does Elizabeth think of Mr.
Mm,
Bingley's
the last
sisters?
page.
Oh, me too. That's a good idea.
Wait, what?
No,
See
not
what
right now.
happens.
What does Elizabeth think of Mr. Bingley's sisters?
Wait, what are
Well, it
these?
has weird words in the back.
Oh,
Can you please
yeah.
turn back to
She
page
saw
21?
super salad.
Well, then most.
What is that word?
We should look it up since we didn't have the dictionary outside with us yesterday.
What's the
Said
last
we.
page in this
I
Well,
book?
was-
I looked up the other word for you. You could look up this word.
These are 58 chapters.
Okay.
I guess I don't have a choice. It's in my face.
Well, you asked the questions. We want to help answer it.
That means.
So even if we don't know what this word means, how can we figure out around it?
61 chapters.
How can we use the context?
Replace it with a different word.
Okay, so how can we do that? By Jane, this attention was received with the greatest pleasure, but Elizabeth saw the superciliousness in their treatment. What does that mean? The word but helps us, since it's in contrast. What did you find?
Of everybody.
An allusion to raised eyebrows. Disdainful or contemptuous.
Disdainful, contempt, and haughty. Do those words help?
No.
Any ideas what they could mean? She had great disdain for him. She couldn't stand to look at him.
An allusion to raised eyebrows. Eyelid.
If I said
Questions.
Open gym.
questions, judges, doesn't like, so Elizabeth, is she automatically head over heels in love with these ladies? She thinks they're the greatest people ever?
No.
Probably not.
She's just questioning. She's not quick to say, of course I like them, or not. So here we have a good example that relates back to our picture of the dog. That people can have the same experience, can go and have dinner with the same people, and come away feeling very different about the experience. Mr. Bingley and Mr. Darcy had this experience at the assembly, right?
Like going to a movie, one person might like it, the other one will not.
Exactly. It's just like going to a movie. So Now let's just think about chapter 6 as a whole. Most everybody got through it yesterday. Could we give a little bit of a summary of how it went? What did we learn? Did anybody write down the summary on their page?
Kind of.
Do you have a summary for us then? We'll add to it if. Would you share yours with us? Would you read it off for us?
No. See me?
Why not?
Yeah, we can.
I don't know. Charlotte and Elizabeth talk about Mr. Bingley and Jane and how he's treating her different from the rest.
Okay.
They compare and contrast, I guess. Then later on, Elizabeth finally catches Mr. Darcy's eye.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what Christy just brought up too. We've got some changes for feelings here going on, right? Mr. Darcy starts to like Lizzie. Does Lizzie realize this? Not yet. She's too caught up in what? What relationship is she caught up in thinking about? Her sisters. She talks to her friend. Do you remember what her friend's name is? Charlotte. So she talks to her friend Charlotte at the beginning here. And thank you for the summary, Sam. That was very helpful. At the beginning here, Charlotte talks about how she thinks that Jane maybe isn't doing enough to win Mr. Bingley over. Did you guys catch that? We were talking. Who was I talking to about it?
About
Was I talking to you about it yesterday?
I don't know.
You're like, I don't know. I don't remember. God, what were you gonna say?
Oh, but, something about the dances and the dinners and stuff. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, yeah. And so, does Elizabeth feel like Jane's had enough time to really get to know him?
No.
Because they've pretty much just seen each other at what you're saying, the dances and the dinners and things, right? That's what you're, that's what you're talking about.
Sounds like
Yeah. So, what about this idea of Charlotte has a few lines in here that are pretty bold. They say quite a lot about what she believes about love. So let's look at those and interpret them a little bit. I'm on the bottom of 21 here at the beginning of the chapter, and she says, "We can all begin freely. A slight preference is natural enough, but there are very few of us who have heart enough to really be in love without encouragement." What do you think she means by that?
So no one has to like force you to be a person?
No one has to, or someone has to?
I mean, yeah.
That no one really has the heart to be in love without encouragement. Can you really be in love with someone if you're not feeling love back from them? What do you think?
You could have said, yeah.
Well, you were sharing some personal aspects last week that was, you were expressing your desire for someone, but maybe you weren't feeling it back at that point. You were. And so it's, what? Oh, you're talking about your mom? In what way? You can love.
Wait. Never mind.
No, you're on the right. I think from what I know, what you've said about your mom, that maybe it's sort of like you can feel love for someone without always feeling it back from them. Is that what you're saying? No, what about if you're thinking about getting married or something like that? Do you need to feel love back from someone in order to really feel like you could get into that
Does
relationship?
this project like connect to Grad House class or something? Because you two are always working together and so.
Well,
These things are really close.
they are a bit. We may talk about some of those
It's weird.
larger aspects, not the specifics that Brad's necessarily talking about now, but in here we are talking about these themes of love and how we go through and decide who we marry and what process.
That's cool.
See? Yeah, it's exactly.
So
Not getting married.
We're talking about love.
why do you say you're not getting married? Okay,
Oh,
there's strong feelings for it.
Um,
Yeah?
marriage means you hold each other in high regards. If one's not doing the same for you, then what about this?
I think that's a beautiful way of putting it. What would Charlotte think? Did you guys pick up on Charlotte's view of marriage?
Barely knowing each other, something like that.
Yeah, that it's almost what, she has a
As long as
line.
they're rich or something.
Yeah, yeah, something like that.
The gold digger.
I'm trying to find it here on page 22.
Where's that on?
She says something about it's better to know. Oh, right here.
What I call it.
They always continue to grow sufficiently unlike afterwards to have to share their vexation. And it is better to know as little as possible the defects of the person with whom you are to pass your life. Do you want to know the defects of the person
No.
ahead of time? No?
No.
Cully's saying yes. Cully's like, I want to know what I'm signing up for. Charlotte also says something else in here. Happiness in marriage is entirely a matter of chance. What does that mean? Happiness in marriage is entirely a matter of chance.
Chance.
To get a good one,
If you get a good one,
you
it'll...
snag a good fish or a bad fish.
Charlotte seems to believe here that it's not always a guarantee and that's okay. Raise your hand if you're gonna, okay, hypothetically, not saying you have to get married. If you were to get married, would you hope to have happiness in that marriage? Raise your hand if you think yes. If you're gonna get married, would you want there to definitely be happiness in that marriage? Really? You don't care?
I'm
I like to
exempt
argue.
from this question.
You don't care if there's happiness in your marriage?
I like to argue.
Alright, well then maybe you're along here with Miss Charlotte.
You need to fall apart to get back together.
Okay, so I'm not saying that like I'm not saying that there has to be happiness all the time.
Just going around.
But like in general, like would you want to be married to someone that you really don't like?
No.
Like
Yeah.
rich or something.
If they were rich, would that make the difference?
Shut the fuck up.
You all may have more in common with these women in the 19th century than you thought.
What is her name? Mary Kate or something like that?
No.
She has a boyfriend that's like 53 or something like that. She's like 26.
Olsen?
Yeah, I think so.
One
Twin?
of the twins. It's nasty.
You rich.
No, it's just old.
Actually, remember like
Was
There's
it-
a old guy marries a younger girl, but she's pretty.
Mhm.
But what if she gets
Yeah.
older and
He's
he
dying
like
soon.
has a lot of money and there's a younger girl who wants more money that she can and basically replaces the old one with the new one.
That happens a lot. It's
Yeah.
called like the starter wife or something, isn't
Yeah.
it? And then there's these women that have married older men and then they get pushed over to the side. And
Was
marriage
that
is a complicated thing.
Did you watch that one where they're like robots or something?
That's a little too vague.
Oh.
What are you talking about?
The Stepford Wives? or
Oh
something?
yeah. I have watched the Stepford Wives.
Yeah, they're like robots.
They are like robots. I was thinking like Transformers or Battlestar Galactica in my head,
Oh.
but that was very different. So we've learned a lot about our characters in this chapter. We've learned a bit about this woman Charlotte, this friend. She's talked to us about what she feels about marriage. Does Elizabeth agree with Charlotte?
Probably not.
She's confused.
She doesn't. She is confused. It's true. And they talk a lot about, you know, what should be in marriage and what Jane should hope and look for. So before we move on to the next chapter, and we've also learned our big thing, that Mr. Bingley may have some feelings for Elizabeth. Before we move on to our new chapter, though, I want to go back to the strategy that we were doing before this in making predictions. And so take that piece of paper and the marker. Finally, Lisa, it's the marker. Your marker's gone now.
Uh-oh.
I have more markers if you need them. So take the piece of paper that you were writing on initially about the dog, and on the back side of it, you do like to sign your name. On the back side of it, make a prediction.
Oh, I got another piece of paper.
Okay, that works too. Make a prediction about something that's going to happen. And if you already know how the story pans out with some of the characters, don't make a prediction that you already know the answer to.
Could I say, I predict that Jane and Lizzie will fight over Bingley?
Yep, put it down. So anything, it can be a short-term thing, it can be a long-term thing. You could even just predict what the next chapter will be about.
What if you predict it and you predict it right? Like you saw the future.
Then you win $1 million.
Do we get extra point?
You better be serious.
I'm sorry, I don't have $1 million to give.
Oh,
shit. I shouldn't have
I
made
mean,
that.
shoot.
Oh,
Looks like that.
It's okay.
I spelled it wrong.
Oh, well, do you need the dictionary?
Oh,
Fighting.
you really?
What? Oh, I didn't know what you were spelling.
Fighting.
So take a minute or so, make our predictions.
About what's gonna happen in the next chapter?
Anything. You can make a prediction about what happens in the end. You can make a prediction about what happens in the next chapter. All right, and we're gonna add them to the wall of predictions
I think Jamie was
over here. Fourth hour made some predictions as well.
Can
So
we-
we'll
can
see
we-
if any of them. I'll highlight a couple
Can
of
we
their
read some of
predictions.
theirs?
What's yours?
Yeah, I'll highlight some of theirs.
Oh.
Oh my.
I don't like writing in
What?
books.
Really?
I said it out loud.
Oh, I didn't.
I think we should just. I didn't think I should stop saying my stuff out loud.
All right. We have, Morel's finishing his up. So these are the ones from your class right now, and then I'll read a couple from the other class. I think Jane will end up with Mr. Darcy and Lizzie with Mr. Bingley. Raise your hand if you think it's possible.
No,
Well, you don't think, why don't you think it's possible?
because Jane marries Bingley.
Shay.
Okay. So you're saying no. And I will suggest that if you do know how it all turns out, that you don't reveal that for other people. So I'm not saying that she was correct or not, but I'm saying I forgot to mention that for this class. Okay, Mr. Darcy and Elizabeth will spend time together and end up falling in love. Right now, do they really like each other? I mean, Darcy's kind of starting, but on a scale of 1 to 10, what is Elizabeth's view of Darcy? 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest.
Well, she started saying he was like very politeness or something like that when they were talking or danced or what they did.
Well, remember at the very beginning, he refused to dance with her. She wasn't pretty enough. He didn't, that was a nice
Right?
catch. We all
Come
saw
on,
it.
that was good.
What do you think on a scale of 1 to 10?
Nobody saw it.
How much does
For
a 4?
Five.
5? Wow.
6.
I'm thinking like a 1.
Why 0?
You're thinking like a 0? About whether or not Elizabeth likes Darcy. Like, what is her opinion of Darcy
Well,
right
you
now?
read the book, so
That's what I'm talking
you
about.
pick the one. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I'm just talking about what we've read so far. Okay, so possibility, they hang out and you have time together. Jane and Bingley get married while Lizzie and Darcy get married as well at the end of the book. Seems like a possibility, we've heard that one. I predict that Jane and Lizzie will end up fighting over Mr. Bingley.
That was mine.
Jane and Lizzie will argue over Bingley and Darcy. It'll be a big old cat fight. Maybe somebody will get someone, who knows. Charlotte is going to convince Lizzie that you should only marry someone for their money. Do you think Lizzie is easily persuaded?
No.
Yeah,
You do?
because, yeah.
Why do you say yes?
Because,
Is that yours?
no. But I just think that, because, like, no.
No, keep going.
Oh,
You're
but it's
there.
yours.
You're there.
Well, like, I don't want to put
Feel-
that
just have a
on feeling,
feeling.
so
Okay, well, if it
I'd
comes,
rather not.
if it comes to you, let us know. I predict that Darcy will do anything to get Elizabeth, and she doesn't realize it, and believe his affection and love for her. Is Elizabeth stubborn?
Yeah.
The way he treated her. She's,
But yeah, based on the way that, I mean, when you overhear somebody saying like, I'm not gonna dance with her, she's not pretty enough. It's gonna take a long time to get over that, don't you think? Would that be easy for you to get over?
I know.
Probably not. You'd be like, oh, if he's hot enough, I'll dance with him. Okay, so let me share with you a couple of predictions from the other class, and then we'll move on to the next thing. We have Jane versus Lizzie, Lizzie versus Charlotte, and an atomic bomb dropped on Netherfield.
Yes.
I'm very pleased with the ones that you guys came up with. You were all pretty realistic with things. This one's a little less realistic, mostly because the atomic bomb was not around at that time. This was a good question that I want you guys to think about. Are all the sisters going to find someone?
No,
We have
because there's like
5
8 of them.
You're right, once you include Mr. Bingley's sisters as well, there's a lot of So we have the 5 Bennett sisters. Can anybody name them all?
No, this is
Jane, Lizzie, that's it.
Jane, Lizzie,
Mary.
Mary.
Austin.
Jane, Lizzie, Mary,
Mike.
L,
Kitty.
starts with an L. What? Kitty, and starts with an L.
Larry.
Wait, don't
Liza's
tell us, Lisa.
Elizabeth, right?
Nope,
Is that?
Luann.
nope,
Lauren.
no.
Laura.
Greg.
Lydia, yep, we got it. So we have these 5 sisters. Do you think it's possible that they're all going to end up with a guy? Because how many guys do we have right now?
Two.
So what, if we were,
7.
no, we have 2 guys. I'm saying 5 girls and 2 guys. Well, now we've got Charlotte and all these other sisters. So,
Unless they just,
so if,
unless they made like 2 each.
what do you guys think?
That's what I'm
Okay, so
saying.
there
What if
could
they're
be,
Mormons?
it could be something
They
crazy.
don't have religions, alright? They ain't letting us know the religion.
Well,
if they're Mormons, they can have.
It's
more than one
possible.
wife.
Really?
In the event that they are not Mormon and there's not multiple wives,
Krishna.
what would have to happen in order to
Introduce more characters.
absolutely.
I would say
Likely
someone.
there will be because we've only got done with like 20.
I know, that's the thing. We've got a long way to go, so you better believe there's somebody else
Already
coming
making-
along.
I would say
Already
somebody
coming
gets
to
murdered,
conclusions
but
and
then.
I know,
We're all gonna be wrong.
We're thinking ahead. No, we all have things to read for. But, and you hit it right on the head. We're looking for more characters are probably gonna show up.
Well,
Okay,
I was thinking,
Let's think we have any brothers. It
this
doesn't
doesn't
matter.
seem like a very serious.
seems like an only child, huh? Alright, well let's move on. Okay. Let's move on to our next strategy here, 9. We have enough time right now to go over the strategy and to start reading a little bit.
No.
You do. You've done a nice job. You've done a nice job of helping to analyze this last chapter.
Man,
So-
it's like I get my pencil
We don't have
out.
enough
Think
time.
about asking questions. We do have enough.
to
We'll be fine.
Actually,
Okay,
it's
will
2:34.
someone please read underneath
2:34.
visualization and imagery for us? Cully, how about if you do that? You need to take a deep breath and,
That's just chapter 7.
Start with mental.
yep,
Mental pictures are movies unfolding in your mind
9.
that make reading 3-dimensional.
Dimensional.
Visualization helps readers
Readers
engage with
enjoy
text in ways that make it personal and memorable.
Kira.
Readers adapt to images as they continue to read.
Okay. Who needs to hear that again? Because we had stereo system going on, stereo in here. Let's take out a couple of pieces of it. Visualization helps readers engage with the text in ways that make it personal and memorable. Let's go back to that dog.
There's a sad face.
There is.
Why?
She's gonna fight.
Hello.
You can have a bite.
What?
You can have a bite of your Snickers.
Thank you.
That's from Ted and like Father George.
Oh.
Oh,
Oh wow.
thank you.
Thank you guys.
Sounded like she was
Why?
making up names. Cause then Bob. and Bob.
Okay, let's go back to our picture of the dog. Visualization.
Yeah.
So visualization, it helps people connect. When we think about pictures, when pictures come to mind for us when we read, it helps us connect things from our own lives to what we're reading. And Sutz had a good example when he talked about, when he said what the dog made him think of was a personal experience. For you, it was something that you had heard, something from your own life. And so when the author tries to create a visual for us, or when we work to create a visual out of what we read, we're able to use things that we already know to connect to what we're reading, and then it becomes more interesting and engaging for us.
I imagine
Like
to
the
be
movie.
in the dog's paws.
You imagine what in the dog's paws?
Good.
I didn't hear you, Sam.
Because she's an only child.
So am I.
You don't get it.
I know. It's okay. It's a triangle thing going on here. Okay, so when we're reading, we've already done a little bit of this visualization, especially when we were talking about the ball. Remember we talked about what they were wearing, what the room was like, that kind of stuff? Remember when we did that the other day? We just like threw out there a couple of things. Like Cinderella. Yeah, that was something that came up. Alright, so the key point here. Will you please read the key point for us? point.
Key point. Imagine what you read as a movie in your mind. Think about the lighting, scenery, costumes, blocking, where characters stand, music, and sound. Why does the setting smell like? Whoa! What does the setting smell? Can you feel characters' movements or taste what they can eat or drink?
Okay, so these are all things that really help you to engage with what you're reading and help you to get into it and to understand it more. So we just have a couple minutes left. We'll start reading the first part in chapter 7, and I'll share with you a little bit of what came to mind for me when I started reading this part. Do you guys does somebody want to read it aloud, or do you want me to read it aloud?
Sad.
238.
Sad to me, but not.
Look, this dog on no teeth.
It does. Alright, in the interest of time, I'll go ahead. Mr. Bennett's property consisted almost entirely of an estate of $2,000 a year, which unfortunately for his daughters was entailed in default of heirs male. On a distant relation on their mother's fortune, though ample for her situation in life, but ill supply of the deficiency of his. Her father had been an attorney in Meryton and had left her £4,000. So we're learning a little bit more about the
Are
heirs.
pounds money or something?
Pounds or money? It's a good question.
Pound franc.
I always say pounds.
They're not the same thing. Francs are in France. Pounds are in England.
Thanks.
She had a sister married to a Mr. Phillips who had been a clerk to their father and succeeded him in the business, and a brother settled in London, a respectable line of trade. Okay, now here's the part that I want to think about visualization. The village of Longbourn was only a mile from Meryton, a most convenient distance for the young ladies, who were usually tempted thither 3 or 4 times a week to pay their duty to their aunt and to the milliner's shop. And that's a shop where you go and you buy like ribbons and things for your hair. It says so in the back. Remember we talked about that little 4 means there's a note in the back. So I looked at it, shop with ribbons. It was just over the way. The 2 youngest of the family, Catherine and Lydia, were particularly frequent of these attentions. Their minds were more vacant than their sisters, and when nothing better afforded, a walk to Meryton was necessary to amuse their morning hours and furnish conversation for the evening. So when I think of this part, I imagine these girls walking in like these big dresses on the countryside, like going to town. It's probably dusty because, you know, like there's not paved roads and stuff. They go into the shop and like maybe like a day like today where it's warm outside, or yesterday it was really hot, you finally go in and it's nice and cool. So tomorrow we'll finish up with chapter 7 and continue on with visualization. Thank you all very much.
Dictation.
What?
Are we going to do dictation?